and it's a pleasure to be here today, Lucca, and thank you for asking me on.
A pleasure to
Um,
have you here, Sensei Emmett. It's really, really great to have you here. And you're a martial artist, martial arts teacher, and podcaster.
yeah,
And you have a super awesome YouTube channel, which I'm looking forward to chatting about a bit later on.
yeah,
But first of all, I'd like to chat to you a bit about you as a martial artist, your background, and your training, and then
yeah.
carry on the conversation from there. So, if you'd like to to us a bit about your background,
No
be great.
problem. Well, I first started in combat sports, I suppose, as about age eight. Started boxing in the local club, and I've done that for about 3, 4 years. But about 2 years into it, I found out that there was a kickboxing club there as well, and I really was sort of inclined to use my legs more than my fists. So I joined the kickboxing and kind of done that. And shortly after that, about 2 years after I started kickboxing, the boxing kind of faded out and concentrated a lot on the kickboxing.
Okay.
And around that time as well, I took up Japanese Jiu-Jitsu,
Mm,
and I competed a little bit in both boxing and kickboxing, more so kickboxing through my teens. And the Jiu-Jitsu was kind of a grounding kind of art. It was, it wasn't, I didn't compete so much in it. It was just kind of enjoying training and having fun. And after a while, I kind of got to about 18 and stopped kickboxing and concentrated a lot more on jiu-jitsu. At that stage, I was getting very close to my first dan black belt. So I really wanted to achieve that. And shortly after that, I kind of, when I was about 21, I did take about a 2 year break. And that's when I met my wife, and kind of my wife kind of led me away a little bit from martial arts, if I'm honest, and kind of spent a lot of time with her. So, and then I actually moved to where my wife's from. It's a different county within Ireland, and
okay.
just sort of a way to make new friends in this new town. Found a local martial arts club, and funny enough, it was actually the head club for the jiu-jitsu club that I was previously in, and I didn't find that out about
Oh,
3, 4 years later.
okay.
And I've kind of worked through their syllabus and up to black belt over the last 15 years. And I think it was what, about 5, 6 years ago, got my first dan, and shortly after that started teaching. And
Mm,
my sensei, actually they own 8 clubs in the local area, so he actually gave me one of the clubs to run myself. And I've been doing that from about a week after I got my black belt. But I think the 4 or 5 years of teaching has really been a lot more beneficial than the 10 years leading up to black belt prior to that.
mm,
It's, I think you learn a lot more teaching because you look at the very small details, and you really have to break everything down to teach it to children and even adults. It's really breaking it down to the simplest form, and you have so many different people with different ways of learning that you have to think of different methods of teaching and look at techniques and even philosophy and that from different angles to kind of really get it across to everyone.
I found sort of similar where as soon as you start teaching something, suddenly you have to really start engulfing yourself and start making it
Yeah,
more of a lifestyle and understanding what you're teaching as well. So your perspective changes a lot, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, definitely. And as I was saying, it's, you really have to look at it from every angle because, especially the difference between women and men, they learn differently, and you have to really think outside the box and put yourself in the students' frame of mind and mindset to kind of discover how they learn. And I
Do you do you
suppose,
do you find that the women pick it up technically quicker?
oh, definitely, I've got in trouble for saying that before, but
'Cause have I.
it's it's definitely, it's true now. A lot of guys when they come in to train, no matter how much you teach them, they do try to use brute strength at every opportunity. Where I think women generally don't have the same level of strength, so they concentrate on the technique and get the finer details quicker, and their technique becomes a lot stronger over time
Yeah.
because they're not relying on strength. And you can definitely see it. Technically, female martial artists would be slightly better than the men. I'll just say slightly.
It's true, but I often say to my students, look at look at the guys, and sometimes you need a bit more of their assertiveness,
Yeah,
and guys look at the girls, and sometimes you need to like rein it in more.
yeah,
But it's interesting, and I guess that's when you start teaching. That's one of the things you start becoming aware of.
yeah,
Like you're saying, you start seeing how the different groups of people and everyone's different, like you said. So you have to think about them different ways of learning. But you start noticing them things.
yeah, definitely. Now, I think cross training actually offers a lot of that as well. When you go into different systems and start training and finding things that are very unique to different martial arts. And for instance, I know you do Wing Chun now, and one of the things that I've noticed about Wing Chun compared to other Chinese martial arts is a lot of them would be very animalistic and monkey kung fu and crane style, and then you've got the wushu, which would be more acrobatic, whereas Wing Chun would be very sort of based on human nature with physics and biomechanics added on, and it's
Mm,
very effective and really focused on optimal use of one's body structure and applying the science of biomechanics and physics to it and doing it very efficiently. And Wing Chun's very good at doing that. And I know the more you train in different martial arts, the more you pick up these things that are very unique to them and really grow as a martial artist.
it's so true. It's just like you're saying, the more you kind of experience, the more you see what's out there. I
Yeah,
think you see the commonalities, the basic principles, but at the same time, like you said, you can pick out them individualistic, sort of specific attributes
yeah,
to that art and
yeah,
take it back with you, the gems that you find in each art, and kind of take it back with you.
definitely. Right. That's it's one of the things I admire about the system I actually teach at the minute. They're really not set in stone with anything. It's we have a lot of instructors coming from a lot of different styles and systems over the years,
Mm,
and although we do teach the same syllabus now, you can see the different aspects coming in from the karate guy or the judo guy coming in and teaching our system. They they add their own twist to it and kind of, but a lot of the other instructors will pick up on that and they're growing and they're helping their students grow by basically adapting everything that they can and
mm.
helping the system grow as well as themselves.
Fascinating, fascinating. And jujitsu. So, what particularly attracted to you to that art?
Well, if I'm honest, when I was kickboxing, I was fighting a lot and competing a lot, but it was very much so outside of competition as well. So when I was at school, I was getting into a lot of fights, and I was a bit of a jerk at school. So if I'm honest, and it was actually one of the science teachers in the school running after school jiu-jitsu dojo, and I was getting into so much trouble. It was kind of coming to the point where I was nearly being asked to leave the school for over fights, and he kind of took me in and he kind of directed me more towards the philosophical side of it and the kind of the history and the concepts of it. And it's, as I said earlier, it really did ground me kind of thing. And I think that's why I found kind of gave me a new perspective. And over time, the kickboxing kind of faded out because I was more interested in the philosophical side and I suppose the technical side of martial arts as well, rather than just fighting all the time. It was actually looking at the techniques and breaking them down and seeing how they can be applied in different situations. It was a real big interest. And as you can see from my YouTube channel, I'm a big history buff. I love looking at the historical martial arts and seeing how martial arts has changed over the years and how it was affected in different environments throughout the world and the development of the martial art. And it's a big interest of mine.
So, really you've come from a sort of more competitive background with the boxing, the kickboxing,
Yeah,
and gone into a more sort of martial artist view with your jujitsu, more
yeah,
sort of a martial art really, which I think a martial art kind of takes on all the different aspects, mind, body, and spirit, instead of just being one particular aspect. For example, the sort of competitive side of it. In a martial art, that's one aspect of the many others. And I can see that you've taken towards that side and grown with that.
yeah,
And it's interesting you're saying now that's led you to, is this what actually that led you to your YouTube channel and wanting to kind of seek that information, speak with all these different martial artists and share that information with people as well?
yeah. Definitely. I always look at martial arts. It's kind of, there's different sections within it, and you've kind of got your combat sports, you got your self defense, your health and well being, and you've got your history and philosophy kind of thing. And I think you should always be building all of these different aspects and always growing on them and knowing what fits where. For instance, there's a lot of techniques that work very well in combat sports, but would never work in a self defense situation, and vice versa. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just understanding what you're training and the purpose of the training is very important. And it's important to stay well rounded. So if you are studying a specific system, know the history of it and the philosophy behind it, and know the concepts. And for each technique you learn in that system, know where it fits. Is it combat sports? Is it self defense? Or is it just personal growth? It's important to sort of stay rounded and kind of grow all these aspects sort of simultaneously.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with you knowing what each aspect is for
Yeah,
and staying well rounded, training them all, but just knowing that, okay, this is for self defense. That's a different game to competition. This is for
yeah,
competition. That's a different game to self defense. Or you training more for the health, the well being. And yeah, I think that's really important for anyone going into any martial arts class, or what are their aims before they go there to know. And then knowing, and you as a teacher as well, same for me, we have to teach that. So we have to be clear when we're teaching what is this for? What's the objective? What are people coming in
yeah,
for? And what we teaching them? And do they understand what it's for as well? And what
yeah.
environment and how to use it for that particular goal is for? So that's super interesting. So how did your channel kind of start though?
It actually started due to the pandemic, really. It was, I think I signed up to YouTube about 8, 9 years ago just to watch videos, and I never really posted anything. I never really saw myself as a content creator. It wasn't something that was in my mind. And then due to the pandemic, I thought I put a few techniques up for students when we can't train. And I thought I need something to kind of inspire them. So it was actually Sensei Ando, if your viewers know him, and I got him on for an interview just as a sort of inspiration to students. And out of the first 5 videos I done, it was the most popular, so it led to another interview, and the channel kind of directed itself, and it ended up just growing. And I've less than 300 subscribers yet, but there's a lot of traffic going through it. It's just getting people to subscribe. But I've had some great guests on, and I think
How many guests have you had now? Because there's quite a few in
I,
this short space of time. You've
I think in
interviewed.
6 months I've got 50 plus guests on.
Wow,
So it's,
it's a
and
big.
they range from just small senseis or that run small clubs in the UK or
Mhm.
Florida, right up to movie stars from the Karate Kid films and stunt people and legends such as Benedict Quaidus of and everything in between as well. It's really taken off, and now I'm actually getting emails from people requesting guests and other YouTubers themselves that have tried to get guests for their own channel and can't seem to get them, but they've come to me to see if I can interview them. So that's quite interesting. But
Yeah, you know, you when I first saw your channel, um, straight away early on, I saw some of the interviews and I was like, okay, that I've discovered arts that I hadn't even heard of, like Michelle, like I said to you before, Michelle and Lua. I'd never heard of that art before,
Yeah,
and it just seemed what like wow, I never even knew about that. And seeing these great martial artists and hearing from them and learning about these other arts, just the exposure that you are giving people as well, the
yeah,
martial arts community, I'm sure is very much well appreciated. And yeah, I can see not just martial artists enjoying your channel, but also other people from walks of life. Because I think one of the really cool things you're doing is giving a lot of exposure to female martial artists as well.
yeah.
And you don't see that often. You don't see a lot of female martial artists in the first place, but also you don't see them getting a lot of exposure. So it's really cool with your channel. Is that something you're focusing quite in with?
It is, yeah. It's when I first started the channel now, and when I decided I was going to do interviews, I was kind of looking about, and as as a father with three daughters, like all in the martial arts, I was sort of thinking, I was looking at who was my role models, and I actually had a few of them on the channel, which was amazing. But then I was looking what females are out there that could be role models for my daughters growing up, and it was very difficult to find any. So the very few that I did find, I was getting on, and then I thought there's definitely needs more exposure because there's plenty out there that's just not getting noticed. And I think it was only about 7 or 8 weeks and they doing the YouTube channel, and I run a female warrior week where for 7 days, well 6 days, I've had a different martial artist on, female martial artist, and just done an interview with him the way I normally would. And then on the seventh day, I actually had a few of my own students on to do an interview, and it was very successful. And then it was about a month ago. Then someone said to me it was one of the best things on my channel, so I just decided, right, I'll do it again. And I didn't really want to wait to August to do it, so I've decided it's 12th of April I'm going to do the next one, and it's really took off this year. I think at the minute of about 18 guests coming on over the one
Wow.
week. So, and some of them's doing interviews, some of them are doing master classes, and
Oh.
it's it's really took off. And I've had a Michelle Manu was on last year for it,
Mhm,
and I actually emailed her to ask her could she do a master class. I was trying to ask the guests from last year to do a master class rather than re-interview them,
mhm,
and she put me in touch with so many new sort of connections, and everybody was happy to get on board and help out, and they're going above and beyond what I expected, and it's really took off this year. So hopefully it keeps growing every year.
I'm sure it
And
will. I'm sure it will. You're building a real nice sense of community, and like I said before, it's not just beneficial for the martial artists, but it's also just for the general public. I think to see that sort of exposure,
yeah,
to see female martial artists for any young girls, like you said. But it's interesting that you're taking inspiration from your daughters, but what's going on in your life and what you're thinking about it, okay?
yeah,
What do they need? What did I have that I want to give them as well? And seeking it and providing it for them. That's really cool. Really cool.
yeah, definitely. And there's, I think the channel too, the more interviews I'm doing, I'm hearing things from guests that are coming on, and it's just sparking something in my head, and it might lead to another 6 interviews because I want to get to the bottom of a certain thing and find out more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, someone once said that katas were useless, so I seeked out who was really interested in kata and who was doing a lot of work on it, and got them on. And over, I think, 4 or 5 videos, we went so deep into kata that you really seen the use of it and the
Ah.
development of it, and how it could improve, teaching kata could improve. And I think Ian Abernethy was a massive guest on that. He really dives deep, and it's a 4 step process for teaching kata. So rather than just going to the bunkai and the techniques for me, actually goes further and goes into using kata for sparring,
Mhm.
which was very interesting. So
That's fascinating to take something like that and then look at the different sides to it, because I think anything can you can find use in anything and not find use in it. It all depends on how you're thinking about it, how you're training it, and how you're progressing it. But it's cool that you've gone in and found people that specialize in that and got their opinion too.
Yeah,
And it just kind of, I think, opens everyone's eyes and brains and sees, okay, that is useful if you have the right idea and intention behind it.
definitely. Well, one of the examples I always use is you always hear Tai Chi getting a hard time,
Mm.
saying that Tai Chi wouldn't work in a fight. And I always answer people by saying neither does a push up, but we train them every training session. People would do push ups, and unless you're going to get in their ring and drop down, give them 10, it's it's what you're getting from that exercise that's improves your, for example, you'll get muscle and that from push-ups, your chest develop and all the rest, and power. But Tai Chi is very good for learning how to breathe correctly and
Mm.
developing breathing. And I actually went a step further with that a few years ago. I actually went and practiced Tai Chi for quite a while and was trying to apply it then, the breathing techniques and the actual sparring matches, and found out it was lasting maybe twice as long with my endurance as I previously was. So it was something that I personally kind of washed it off and said, no, it's rubbish. But once I went and trained it and actually looked into there a little bit, I found a lot of benefits to training it.
Substance, right?
Um,
I think that the interesting part there is that you actually gone out and actually done it, because so many people talk about things and so many people just look at something and say that's rubbish,
yeah,
without even knowing what it's about or going and training it and seeing for themselves. I think a lot of people, if they go and do that, will find actually, yeah, there are some really good benefits to it. There is substance in it. Maybe not everything, because nothing's got everything. Nothing's going to be the
yeah,
full article, but you've gone there instead of just talking about it and just instead of just saying that's rubbish. Even if you thought in your head before maybe it is, you've still gone there and tried it out. And I think that's
yeah,
so important.
yeah. That's it. I always go back to my students if I'm telling my students something, I want to know that I've actually personally went and researched it and put work on it to kind of find out what I believe in it and what the truth behind it is, and if it does develop you in any way at all. And
Mm.
then when I'm teaching my students, I can give them an honest opinion based on previous training. So rather than just reading something or hearing something from someone and just basically giving bad advice just because someone else gave me bad advice. And so I think it's important if you are teaching, it's important to actually go and learn these things and try them out and basically have some substance behind what you're teaching.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I can tell how you everything you're doing, because you're not just talking, you're actually doing all these things. You know, you're a great teacher, and you're obviously a great teacher for your students. So
Thank you. Nick.
I'm sure they really appreciate you. And yeah, what's the best way for people? You've got your YouTube channel, Sensei Emmett. And are there any other ways to contact you, or what's the best way to find out about what you're doing?
It's only the YouTube channel at the minute now. I did have Facebook and Instagram, but I think when the YouTube started to kind of take up a lot of time, I kind of decided to close everything else and just concentrate 100% on that. So
Mhm.
it's only the YouTube at the minute. So
Perfect. Well, I'm going to put a link to your YouTube channel in the description below. But
thank you.
get over there, check it out, because there's such a variety on there. There's so much knowledge and wealth, and a sense of community as well with what you're doing. I'm sure it's just
Yeah,
going to continue to grow and grow and grow, and we will appreciate it. So, thank you
yeah,
for creating that channel and giving that exposure and sharing martial arts at the end of the day.
yeah. Thank you very much. No, I've always kept a sort of open policy on it, so anybody that wants to come on as a
Mhm.
guest is more than happy. My email address is on there. Just drop me a comment or email me, and it's open to anybody at all to come on and share their stories and their views on things. So I try to keep that open community feel to it, and it's very, as you know, look, it's very informal. I'm not kind of, I don't delve too much into things like. So it's just kind of an overview of people's thoughts and ideas and their background in the martial arts, and it's open to anybody at all, whether they're white belt or 10th dan black belt. Everybody's welcome. So.
That's so cool. Okay, Sensei. Well, really appreciate having your time and appreciate you coming on here.
Thank
And so
you,
yeah,
Lucca.
just a massive thank you.
It was my pleasure. I thank you.
I'll see you and speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Nick.